Regular meeting number 12 will now come to order. Will you please stand for the playing of the national anthem? Would you please lead us? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we have the pastor come for prayer, I would ask that we take a moment of silence and stand in solidarity with our fellow city New Christ Church in New Zealand and stand against bigotry and hate that cost 49 people their lives. May we have a moment of silence. Thank you. I have the special honor of inviting my aunt, the Reverend Alice Harden Cook, to come and pray with us this evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for having me here today in the name of the Lord. So I ask for all eyes closed and all heads bowed at this time. We thank you, O God, for the giving of this day. And as we come upon the closing of this day, I ask that all is said and that is said and acted upon, Lord, let it be done according to your will. Lord, you're so great and you're so mighty. But most of all, Lord, you're worthy to be praised because you're the creator and master of all things. And so the leaders of this city, they're instruments of your goodwill, Heavenly Father. Help all persons here this evening lean not into their own understanding, but allow you only to lead and guide them along the right paths for your people, oh God. Help those who lead to receive your spirit of love and peace for all of your creation. We all know that prayer changes things. We all know that prayer can help us to understand situations and challenges that we face right now. And so since I've been asked to stand here to call on your name, I ask that you come and be among your people who truly know you and are blessed. And I ask you to continue to bless them as they deliberate over what has been brought before them this day. Bless all who wish to speak from the floor and all who sit at the governing table. Because, Lord, we know that there's no other God like you. So I'm leaving all this up to you, oh God. I'm asking you to deliver, to act, and to bless according to your good will. And we know all this because we know that all things work together for good to them that love God, to them that are called according to your purpose, oh God. And so now, move us mightily, be in their spirit, and bless the people that they represent all over this city. And we'll be careful to give you the praise and the honor and the glory. In his son, Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Clerk, please call the roll.
Brown, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, Tyson, President Harden. Any person who takes any actions to obstruct or interfere with the conduct of tonight's meeting may be charged with disturbing a lawful meeting pursuant to Columbus City Code 2317.12. Any person who enters those areas of city council chambers reserved for city officials or invited guests may be charged with criminal trespass pursuant to Columbus City Code 2311.21.
Can I get a motion to dispense with the reading of the journal? Please call the roll.
Brown, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, Tyson, President Harden.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. This week's communications received by the City Clerk's office are listed on the agenda and will be published into the bulletin. Are there any other communications to be read into the record?
Not at this time.
Are there any resolutions by members of council, starting with Councilmember Brown? Councilmember Mitch Brown. Councilmember Remy. Councilmember Favor.
No.
Councilmember Doran.
Thank you, President Harden. I have one resolution this evening. I'd like to invite Mike Lascola from AEP Ohio and Sarah Poe from Columbia Gas to the podium as I introduce Resolution 93, 2019, to recognize and celebrate the Community Energy Savers Program and encourage all Columbus residents to create a more efficient, energy-efficient living and work environment. The Community Energy Savers Program is a multi-year partnership between AEP Ohio, Columbia Gas, and the City of Columbus and other parties. As a part of the American Cities Climate Challenge, Columbus has had a goal to have 30,000 households complete energy audits by the end of 2020. To help achieve this goal, the Community Energy Savers Program will focus on 6 neighborhoods with high energy burdens, beginning with the Linden community and then spreading to the Hilltop, Franklinton, the Near East Side, Milo Grogan, and the University District. The program urges residents and businesses to install or upgrade to more efficient appliances and fixtures so they can save money and heat their homes efficiently. Residents can also apply for cashback rebates to purchase Energy Star certified appliances, recycle, and pick up older inefficient products such as refrigerators, freezers, or take part in home energy audits. Income eligible residents can have their homes weatherized at no cost. If certain goals are met in each target neighborhood, the Community Energy Savers Program will provide a financial grant to the community for the energy efficiency upgrades and will even further improve the lives of the residents of Columbus. The Linden community is eligible up to $35,000 for energy efficient upgrades in the community schools through the program. While the Community Energy Savers Program community grants are limited to these 6 select neighborhoods over the next 2 years, the entire City of Columbus will benefit as many households as possible will participate in the Utility Energy Efficiency Program. If there are no questions or comments from my colleagues, I move for adoption.
Brown, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, Tyson, President Harden.
It's now my honor to present the resolution to Mike and Sarah as recognition for their involvement with the Community Energy Savers Program and their commitment to the citizens of Columbus.
Thank you. Council President Harden, Chair Dorans, members of council, it's a pleasure for us to be here tonight for this meeting. My name is Mike Lascola. I'm an Energy Efficiency and Consumer Program Coordinator for AEP Ohio. With me is Sarah Poe. She's Manager of Energy Efficiency Programs with Columbia Gas. Thank you all very much for taking the time to recognize the Community Energy Savers Program. We both had a chance to talk about this program with your staff members a few weeks ago, and we really appreciate the time that Council has taken to learn about the Community Energy Savers Program. As Mayor Ginther mentioned in his State of the City address, climate change is a social justice issue. We all recognize that utility costs can be a major financial burden for low-income families. Late last year, Columbus was named a winner of the Bloomberg American Cities Climate Challenge. This accelerated program will help all of us in Columbus to meet our carbon reduction goals. The City of Columbus has a very ambitious goal of having 30,000 households complete energy audits by the end of next year, but AEP Ohio and Columbia Gas will recognize that there are very specific communities in Columbus that will benefit from targeted energy reduction programming. That is why AEP Ohio and Columbia Gas are pleased to offer the Energy Savers Program. We believe this initiative will improve the lives of Columbus residents and have long-lasting positive impacts on many of our great neighborhoods. Community Energy Savers will focus on 6 neighborhoods that Councilmember Dorans mentioned to lower the energy burden for families and help Columbus meet lofty citywide energy audit goals. which is why this presentation is so very important to this effort. During the next few weeks, we are kicking off this 2-year push to help families and businesses lower their energy costs. And while the entire community will benefit from lower greenhouse gas emissions and reduced energy costs, those 6 neighborhoods mentioned in the resolution will have an opportunity to turn their cost savings into an investment in their community in a very special way. To discuss more on this program, I'd like to introduce Sarah Poe from Columbia Gas.
Thank you, Mike. The Community Energy Savers Program attaches points to energy efficiency program participation. For example, if a resident participates in recycling an appliance or participates in an online energy audit, they'll receive a point. If a business installs energy efficient lighting or an HVAC system, they can earn up to 10 points. All these points in a specific time frame go to meet a goal for the neighborhood. And when that goal is met, Columbia Gas and AEP Ohio have pledged a $35,000 award towards energy efficiency upgrades for the community. In the case of Linden, our first Community Energy Savers neighborhood, that money will be used to light an outdoor basketball court at Hamilton STEM Academy and make water heater upgrades at Linden area elementary schools. So as you can see, a family or business wins with lower energy costs. The neighborhood wins with much needed improvements, and the city of Columbus wins with lower greenhouse gas emissions. In addition to lowering energy bills for Columbus families and businesses, this program also provides a workforce development program that will train home energy auditors to help families complete energy audits. I want to invite all of you to a kickoff event at Hamilton STEM on Thursday, March 28th at 5 p.m. In addition to great activities and food, we will have volunteers ready to help residents take an online energy audit, knowing that every point is crucial in helping Linden meet its goal. Mike and I are happy to answer any questions that you may have and want to thank you again for your support of this program.
Thank you for your leadership this evening. We really appreciate you both being here, and look forward to continuing to partner with the program moving forward and being able to provide all these resources to these communities of need in our neighborhoods. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, President Harden. That's all I have this evening.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Tyson.
Thank you, President Harden. I'm going to ask if Mr. Callaway Robertson and Lori Wingard and Rick Stoddard to come to the podium. I have Resolution 0100X-2019. And this resolution is to honor, applaud, and celebrate the Rotary Club of Columbus on the occasion of its 107th anniversary. Whereas Rotary International membership is in excess of 1.2 million, with more than 38,000 clubs around the world, each member and club abiding by the Rotary International motto of service above self. Whereas Columbus Rotary was chartered on March the 5th of 1912 as the 38th club with 22 charter members, some of whom have descendants that are still active today. Whereas Columbus Rotary is the 30th largest club in the world, and with a membership of nearly 300 individuals and corporations. Whereas Columbus Rotary has sponsored 14 other Rotary clubs in Central and Southwest Ohio since its inception in 1911. Whereas Columbus Rotary continues to exert a positive, visible influence in Central Ohio and abroad, supporting projects like its Student Service Above Self program, which began in 2003. This is an annual ongoing partnership with Columbus City Schools that focuses on developing more than 80 community service projects conducted by teams of students from every Columbus City middle school and high school. Whereas the Columbus Rotary awards more than $100,000 in annual scholarships to students from Columbus City schools, the club also supports the Homeless Family Foundation, as well as the annual Coleraine Elementary Christmas Project, benefiting children with disabilities. The club is also deeply involved in supporting the Rafiki International Project, which is an orphanage in Kenya that provides services to kids whose parents have died of HIV or AIDS. Now, therefore, be it resolved that this council does hereby honor, applaud, and celebrate the Columbus Rotary on the occasion of its 107th anniversary. I move for adoption.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, Tyson, President Harden.
Thank you. The president for 2018-19 is Mr. Callaway Robertson. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. President Harden, members of City Council, and particularly to Councilwoman Priscilla Tyson. I've made those remarks many times. It was such a humble experience to be able to listen to them. Actually felt better about the good we do locally and globally. To this particular community, these key signature projects that we've done annually, as Councilwoman Tyson referenced, in the Columbus City Schools, our partnership with 21 high schools and 26 middle schools, 100% of each, we have an annual service fair. We start in the fall with the schools, and it culminates in a fair. This coming Wednesday, all 26 middle schools will be at Valley Dale that Columbus Rotary hosts with themselves and administrators, and you all are welcome as well. Then on May 13th, Monday, May 13th, we'll have all 21 high schools in their service projects, the 80 projects that Councilwoman Tyson referenced. This is because our mantra, she said, is service above self. So we thought it was best when we looked years ago, how can we help teach it, not just do it? So we're trying to do both. We're trying to be people of action and also make a difference in everyone's lives. From a scholarship standpoint, in the Columbus community, we have $100,000 a year that go to worthy recipients, those who are finishing high school that have been nominated. One of them, unbeknownst to them, during the awards of all these scholarships, receives a $25,000 scholarship. And they get to read their particular remarks, which was one of the pieces they submitted. Again, we're humbled to receive such a resolution. Thank you so much. Could I have a copy of that? Because I could use that summary sometime. Thank you so much. That was so wonderful. And please, we have so much to do in this community. You all are volunteers already. Thank you so much for your representation of the city. But if you have people that want to get involved and need an organization to leverage like Columbus Rotary does and the other 14 in Greater Columbus, but we are the Downtown Columbus Rotary. We meet at Mondays at the Boathouse. Please refer them to consider Rotary. Our doors are open to all. Thank you so much.
I'm going to give you a resolution. But I also just want to mention that for the past, 5 or 6 years, I've had the opportunity to go to the Service Above Self event. And it's really amazing to see these young people and the service projects that they are doing within the city of Columbus. There's absolutely no way that we can do everything for our residents. As a government entity, we just have to have partners. And sometimes we talk about the Columbus way in terms of the for-profits and the public sector, but I want to also need to add to the young people. The projects that they're doing in this community are pretty amazing and changing lives, and it's also changing their lives. And so I thank you for your leadership for this work. I also want to recognize Director Rhonda Johnson. She is always in attendance and gives remarks also at this event. So congratulations on job well done. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Council Member. Are there comments by elected officials, auditors, city attorney's office? I see that this council is excited to have our clerk of courts, Ms. Lori Tyack, here for a presentation. Madam Clerk, welcome to council. Judge Barrows, welcome.
Good evening, Council. President Harden, Pro Tem Brown, Councilmember Brown, Ramey, Favor, Dorans, and Tyson. So wonderful to see you here this morning. I'm here to share with you tonight some exciting news and to ask for City Council's support. The Clerk's Office and 17 other city, county, and state partners are planning a driver's license reinstatement workshop for April 4th, 5th, and 6th from 8:30 to 3:30 at the Franklin County Courthouse Complex. You've heard of Paul Simon's song, 50 Ways to Lose Your Lover. Well, in Ohio, there are almost 50 ways to lose your driver's license. Now, you might not see the comparison at first, but here are a few reasons you need to have a valid driver's license. Having a valid driver's license is important if you want to get a job, purchase tobacco or alcohol, go to the casino, go to a dance club, travel by airplane, although now you can use other forms of identification, and the ultimate, apply for a marriage license. Based on 2017 statistics from the Ohio Bureau of Motor Vehicles, more than 3 million people in Ohio and 370,000 people in Franklin County have suspended licenses. This negatively impacts their ability to perform daily tasks like driving their children to school, driving to and from a job, doctor's visits, or even making a trip to the grocery store. According to a recent survey from the American Association of Motor Vehicles, most situations causing license suspension do not even involve moving violations. Here are just a few in Ohio. If you fail to pay child support, you may lose your license. If your child drops out of high school or is unruly, you may lose your license. If you do not show proof of insurance to the Ohio Bureau of Motor Vehicles, you may lose your license. If you fail to show up in court or pay fees or fines, you may lose your license. In late 2018, the Ohio legislature decided to address some of these issues by passing House Bill 336, an amnesty reduction bill. This bill provides the Ohio Bureau of Motor Vehicles a 6-month period to grant total forgiveness or a 10% reduction of reinstatement costs. But before you can even be considered for this program, you must have completed all court-ordered sanctions and have had your license suspended for more than 18 months. The clerk's office and partners are bringing together resources in one location to make it easier for participants to get their licenses back. Attorney volunteers will be on hand to provide legal advice and help identify the steps necessary for license reinstatement. Judges in municipal and domestic relations court, thank you, Judge Barrows, will be available to meet with participants. Participants will receive favorable consideration to resolve their court cases and have their suspension set aside. Individuals can work out a payment plan with the Franklin County Child Support Services, and their suspension may be lifted. Jobs and Family Services will offer financial assistance to qualifying participants, which may be applied toward payment of reinstatement fees, and the Veterans Administration will be on hand to provide information and possible financial assistance to our veterans. Only after these issues are cleared up can individuals apply to the Ohio Bureau of Motor Vehicles for consideration of full amnesty or reduction of their reinstatement fees. The average reinstatement fees range from $15 to thousands of dollars, depending on the situation. You can certainly understand why many people simply give up, as the roadblocks seem to pile up. This workshop is about bringing resources together in one location to help people get their lives back on track. Individuals may pre-register at www.fcmcclerk.com until April 2nd. The workshop is free. We encourage those who need assistance to pre-register online or to stop by the courthouse complex from 8:30 to 3:30 any day, April 4th, 5th, or 6th. Thank you for providing me a few minutes to promote this valuable workshop. Do you have any questions or comments?
Well, thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you for your leadership on this. The issue of license forfeiture is an issue that has legs into other things that you talked about in terms of employment and other areas. And so you stepping up and allowing council to help raise the awareness of this workshop is something I'm very grateful for. Councilmember Mitch Brown.
I think it's only important to say that when I was the registrar, 10 of those 50 ways belong to me, since for how to take away your license. So I'm excited to try and help you figure out ways in which we can try and address the issue. Amnesty is very, very significant. You've already stated very clearly, lots of people have difficulty once they lose their license. They don't get it back until they get stopped by police. And then the problem becomes even far worse. And then Judge Barrows has to get involved on a whole different level. So anything that we can do as a council to try and assist, certainly I want to participate and help in any way I can.
Thank you.
Hi, Clerk. Can you give us the website again?
www.f like Frank, CMCCLERK.com.
Okay. Thank you. Great program. Great
Thank
work.
you. And I'm pleased to announce we already have 250 pre-registrants. Thank you.
Are there any requests by members of council for the removal of ordinance or resolution from the consent action portion of the agenda? Seeing none, may we now get a motion to waive reading of the title of the 30-day legislation? Is there a second? Please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Thank you. Will the clerk now read into the record the ordinance numbers of 30-day legislation on tonight's agenda for first reading?
Finance Committee, Ordinance 666-2019. Public Utilities Committee, Ordinance 222 and 649-2019. Public Service and Transportation Committee, Resolution 77X-2019. Zoning Committee, Ordinances 721, 723, and 742-2019.
We don't have any speakers on the first reading portion of the agenda. The following ordinance appear on our agenda as consent action. Will the clerk now read those ordinances into the record?
Resolutions of expression 92X, 94X, 96X, and 99X-2019. Finance Committee, Ordinances 592, 594, 602, 607, 629, 664, 689, 691, and 695-2019. Public Safety Committee, Ordinances 441, 445, and 637-2019. Public Utilities Committee, Ordinances 323, 391, 418, 512, 536, 555, 573, 601-2019. Technology Committee, Ordinances 567, 570, and 588-2019. Public Service and Transportation Committee, Resolution 76X-2019, Ordinances 551, 552, 553, 554, 599, 628, and 657-2019. Housing Committee, Ordinances 672, 706, 707, 708, 709, 710, 711, 712, 749-2019. Criminal Justice and Judiciary Committee, Ordinances 577, 578, 580-2019. Economic Development Committee, Ordinances 702 and 703-2019. Environment Committee, Ordinance 662-2019. Administration Committee, Ordinances 658 and 668-2019. Health and Human Services Committee, Ordinances 605 and 606-2019. Appointments from the Mayor's Office numbered A0050, 52, and 53-2019.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We have two speakers on the consent action portion of the agenda. The first speaker to come before council is Mr. Nathaniel Wilkins, speaking on Ordinance 0749-2019. Mr. Wilkins, welcome back to council.
(1612) Arlington Avenue, Mr. Nathaniel George Wilkins. I'm not going to say that I'm in against or for this ordinance, CA 44-0749, 2019. I would just say that for this massive demolition for vacant structures and testing, I just feel like that when this number of vacant property has been torn down, asbestos, testis, and abatement, whatever the case may be, but I would say that I'm against this for 8 reasons. It's because the residents is not notified of any property that's been taken down or asbestos to being taken from the property. I will give you a prime example of 1631 Arlington Avenue. Time after time again, property was rehabbed, front porch. City came along, tagged it as a no trespassing sign at the time. At the time, several of these properties that came down in the Linden community, such as South Linden, all over the state of Ohio. Unfortunately, that the city looks at this as a massive demolition, not to be rehabbed. Today, I come down here by bus and looked at another property that's being torn down on Cleveland Avenue. As this time to say, I'm not for this or against this, but I would like to have more clarification to this. Why has this got to happen so quickly? Why that none of these homes cannot be received? I'm just kind of at a baffle of this at this time. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Wilkins. I actually would like to turn it over to Director Shoney. Could you talk about the VAP program, about the processes we go through for vacant abandoned processes, and Mr. Wilkins mentioned notification. So just what the process is.
Thank you, President Harden, members of council. The process in the VAP program is fairly extensive, but to summarize, when we have a property that has been vacant or abandoned in the community for an extended period of time, we work with the city attorney's office and the county land bank and the county prosecutor to see whether we can obtain the title of that property. If we can, we do an evaluation of whether the property is possible to be rehabbed. Part of that evaluation is taking a look at what efforts have been made to sell the property previously. If the property has been on the market for a number of years and has not sold on the private market, and we have had an opportunity to try and sell it, at some point it just reaches the point where it's clear that there is no one who's willing to take that property on and rehab it. At that point, we assign it to one of our several demolition contractors, and they go out and demolish the property. I am not familiar off the top of my head about what our notification process is for neighbors. I keep glancing at Councilmember Favor and whether she has any recollection from her time as an assistant city attorney. But we will share that with Mr. Wilkins when we get that information. The area commissions, thank you, are notified of demolitions. So we do go through the area commissions to let them know, and there's an opportunity for them to comment in that period. Happy to answer any other questions that council members may have.
Thank you, Director. Are there any questions or comments? Thank you. The next speaker we have on the consent portion of the agenda is Ms. Julie Watson. Ms. Watson, welcome to council. Ms. Watson is speaking on 0606-2019, and I believe that is in Health and Human Services.
My name is Julie Watson. I'm a member of the BREAD organization located at 404 South 3rd Street in Columbus. I think it is great that the city will support the Rebuilding Lives program. Any program that helps people get back on their feet and into housing that they can afford is very useful. This would especially be useful for the families at my school. I was here last week and have another housing story to share this week. There's another one of my students who missed school on a regular basis due to her living situation. Her family was in a homeless shelter. Then they found a house on the west side. For 4 months, when asked how things were going, Dad would share that they were still sleeping on the floor with no furniture. When they finally did get furniture, everyone was very excited. This family had been attending our school for 3 years, and the parents really did not want to have them change schools. I never did find out why the student was driven to school by her dad instead of taking the bus. But I do know that they lived a good distance away from school, and I know that gas money was tight for the family. Starting in February, she missed a couple days of school every week until April, when we didn't see her again for the rest of the year, and never heard about a school transfer. There are many more stories about housing problems that families from my school have experienced. This is a big concern for families as well as the school staff when we see how many obstacles get into the way of our students' learning. Not having stable housing directly affects the child's education. We have shared our stories week after week. One of the parents of my students was unable to make it today, and I've printed a copy of her story to give to council members. The ballot initiative and the land trust are good steps forward. Research shows that more funding is needed to address our housing crisis. BREAD has 2 requests of the city. Encourage developers to set aside new housing units for families that make less than $42,000 a year, and give an additional $5 million per year to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. What would it take for the city to grant these requests?
Are you yielding back your time, Ms. Watson?
Sorry?
Are you yielding back your time?
I just would like to have a response if possible. So I was here last week and this week, and I'm interested in what the council has to say about this.
Thank you. Well, first I would say thank you for your service. I don't think I said that last week. As a teacher, you're on the front lines of the issues. You see them in real time in our most innocent faces in our community. And we continue to ask teachers to do more with less. And I appreciate you stepping up. As you probably have seen, we have won the bond package for the first time, asking voters to approve $50 million for affordable housing. We are working in a collaborative manner to address this issue in all parts, from our incentive policies to our working with developers, and like today, passing legislation to support the shelter board to make sure that there's a safety net. And so we will look forward to work with you and others as we tackle one of the biggest issues facing our community. So thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I have
Yes.
Councilmember Tyson.
Thank you, President Harden. I also just want to share some information that hopefully Brad and other organizations throughout this country will begin to be an advocate for. I do recognize that you're focused on Columbus, Ohio, and what we can do as a city to be able to try to have more people have affordable housing. And I can provide you with this data, however, because I've just come back from D.C. as a part of the National League of Cities, which our city is a member of. And one, National League of Cities represents cities and townships across this country that are focused on the issues that our country is facing. One of the issues certainly is we focus this year on infrastructure. Another happens to be affordable housing. But I will also share with you that if you begin to research this whole issue on affordable housing, you realize that what has happened in this country is that we also are not getting the dollars that we used to get from the federal government to support affordable housing has, dropped in a significant way. And I will be happy to provide you with kind of the history of the funding to support affordable housing. And by not having that funding, there's only so much all of us in cities can really do. The federal government has to be our partner. They have to be our partner. And so I would certainly like to meet with you and provide you with some information, and so that I think that Brad and its other organizations are similar around this country. We need to make that really become an issue for us, because it's very, very difficult when you see the dollars that are needed to help move us forward. We're trying to do our part, and as you can see, Council President Harden mentioned about the bond package, but the issue is larger than Columbus, Ohio. It really is. And so it's going to take a ground swirling of people to be focused on how do we get more additional dollars to support this critical issue, not only in Columbus, but around this country.
So the federal government is telling us that the local governing bodies should be more responsible for this problem as opposed to them?
No, I don't know what if they're saying
by
that
not
to
giving
you. I don't
us
know.
enough
I'm
money.
saying I'm going to show you. All I want to do is demonstrate
Okay.
the dollars that have come into the communities in the past, that what dollars are needed to do this work. That absent those dollars, there isn't any. Any city across this country that are dealing with affordable housing. They realize they need a partner. And certainly the city is being a partner. We can only do so much. But it requires it's a federal government issue to step up and to help cities with this particular issue. I can show you that data, and then maybe that will be helpful to trying to deal with this issue moving forward.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Can I distribute these?
Sure. Ms. Haley, would you get that from Ms. Watson? Again, thank you for your advocacy. We look forward to having you a part of this conversation. It will be this is a top priority for council, so we appreciate and look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Seeing no more speakers to speak on the consent action portion of the agenda, and are there any questions or concerns with the consent? May I have a motion then for approval of these items designated as consent? Please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor. Remy, Tyson, President Harden.
The consent action portion carries. We will now move into second reading, ordinance that appear on our agenda as second reading. The first committee to come before council is the Finance Committee. Councilmember, is it Finance? Just joking, there's no Safety Committee. The first committee to come before council this evening is Safety. Councilmember Brown, Mitch Brown.
Thank you, President Harden. Tonight, we have ordinance 0661, 2019, to authorize the Director of Finance and Management Director to issue a purchase order to Knox Associates to waive the competitive bidding provisions of the Columbus City Code, Chapter 329, for the purchase of the Knox Box home equipment, to authorize the expenditure of $174,000 from the General Government Fund, Grant Fund, and to declare an emergency. I'd like to ask Assistant Director Kate Pisciotti to speak to the request for waiver of competitive bidding. Director Pisciotti.
Good evening, Council Chair Brown, President Harden, members of council. The Columbus Division of Fires are requesting a bid waiver on this purchase so that the same Knox Box system that is currently used by both homes and businesses can be acquired. A formal bid process could possibly result in an award being made to a new, different key retention system product, which would require a change out of systems and put an undue hardship on every business or homeowner within the city by incurring a cost to change out their entire locking system. For these reasons, the Department of Public Safety is requesting a waiver of competitive bidding.
Are there any questions from my colleagues? Hearing none, I move for approval.
Brown, Dorans, favor. Remy, Tyson, President Harden.
That's all we have in public safety, sir.
Thank you, Chair Brown. The next committee that we have before council is the Economic Development Committee. That committee is chaired by Councilmember Remy. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, President Harden. Tonight we have ordinance number 2174, 2018, to consent to a real property tax exemption on property on which the Ohio State University intends to construct an outpatient clinic, to authorize the Director of Development to execute agreements and instruments to implement that consent, and to declare an emergency. The Ohio State University has entered into an agreement to purchase property located at the southeast corner of the intersection of Hamilton Road and State Route 161, on which the university intends to build a new outpatient clinic serving the northeast portion of the city. The university needs to ensure that its customary real property tax exemption is available before it can close on the property purchase and build the clinic. Since the property is located in a tax increment financing district, City Council must consent to the university's real property tax exemption in lieu of the city's tax increment financing exemption. The university will pay the city an upfront payment of $1,329,437 in consideration for this consent and the donation agreement for the upfront payment. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Brown, Dorans, favor. Remy, Tyson, President Harden.
Pass.
Next, I have ordinance number 0673, 2019, to accept the application of Nail Yazin for the annexation of certain territory containing 1.957 acres in Franklin Township. I request to table indefinitely.
Please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor. Remy, Tyson, President Harden.
Table.
And that's all I have in economic development this evening.
Thank you, Chair Remy. Next committee to come before council is the Housing Committee. That committee is chaired by Councilmember Favor. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President Harden. Tonight in the Housing Committee, we have ordinance number 665-2019 to authorize the Director of the Development Department, excuse me, to enter into a contract with the Affordable Housing Trust for Columbus and Franklin County to facilitate the production of affordable housing and enhance home ownership opportunities in Columbus, to authorize the expenditure of 0.43% of the combined rates of 5.1% of the hotel motel excise tax, and to declare an emergency. The Affordable Housing Trust for Columbus and the Franklin County combines public and private funding through a variety of sources to support the development of housing within the city. Both rental units and home ownership projects are developed through this partnership. In 2019, the city will commit its annual contribution of the hotel motel tax receipts to the Housing Trust at an estimated over $1.8 million received through the portion of the hotel motel excise tax fund. In May 2000, the Columbus Housing Task Force was commissioned to design the city's first housing trust and to recommend a structure whereby an affordable housing trust could facilitate the production of housing in Columbus. The goal of the Housing Trust Fund is that 50% of the city's leverage funding would go to benefit citizens who are at or below 60% of the median income. Are there any questions or comments from my colleagues? Yes.
Thank you, Councilmember Favor. I just have a question. I don't know which of you is best to answer, but this is set aside for home ownership opportunities, which I think is great. In tackling our overall affordability problems, do you have a target percentage of home ownership? You know, like what percentage of units that folks live in should be owned versus rented? Or is that a really annoying question that I've
Council member, you would never ask annoying questions. The short answer to your question is no. We don't have a specific target. This is one of the more complex pieces of kind of understanding the housing market right now is what should be that target for home ownership. It's not what we used to think of it as 10 years ago, and I don't know that we've really settled on kind of what is the right approach. We do have, as you know, a kind of portfolio approach to our programs where we make sure that we do have programs that are encouraged, that are focused on encouraging development of new low-income supported rental housing, as well as making sure we've got a portfolio of things to help with home ownership. So we know that both are important. Do I have a specific target of what percentage we want to be at? No, we don't have that right now.
Are there any additional questions or comments? If there are none, I would move for passage.
Please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, Favor, Remy, Tyson, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. That's all I have in the Housing Committee.
Thank you, Chair Favor. Next committee, Councilmember, would you like to, please?
Okay. Thank you. I almost called you your honor. Thought I was in the courtroom. Flashbacks. Tonight in the Criminal Justice and Judiciary Committee, we have ordinance number 579-2019 to authorize and direct the administrative and presiding judge of the Franklin County Municipal Court to enter into contract with Richland County Community Alternative Center to authorize the expenditure of up to $100,000 with RCCAC for inpatient chemical dependency treatment for OVI and non-OVI offenders, and to waive the competitive bidding provisions of the Columbus City Codes. Richland County Community Alternative Center is a government program, and it is licensed by the Ohio Mental Health and Addiction Services. This organization possesses the necessary level of expertise in order to provide treatment services and a certified mental health treatment program. RCCAC does not have post-control felons at their location, which increases the safety of the municipal court probationers. Their facility is a renovated hospital near the sheriff's office, therefore providing better security coverage. Lastly, this program can accommodate women probationers, and they will transport all probationers to and from the program and the court. Judge Barrows is in chambers tonight. Could you please provide us with some additional information, and if you could also just touch briefly on the request for a bid waiver.
I'm sorry, for?
Request for a bid waiver on this one.
Okay, thank you. Council President Harden, Chair Favor, members of council, thank you very much for this opportunity to present I did want to take a second to commend my fellow office holder, Clerk Tyak, if she's still here, for doing leadership on that program. Poor people have a rough break everywhere they go, including the courts, and if we can help them out, we should help them out. This is funding that comes from a court cost, which is levied on every case that comes through the municipal court. It's the Indigent Drug and Alcohol Treatment Fund. So this is moving funds that are earmarked for this purpose to be used for this purpose. The Richland County Community Alternative Center has multiple beds. They have made 5 beds available for Franklin County. They will serve women as well as men for stays of up to 90 days. So this is just one of the many arrows in our quiver funded through IDAT funding to try to help people, especially people who are poor, to deal with their addiction problems and hopefully to recover from them. As far as the competitive bidding provisions, this is a service that we've used for years. They're in place. We're familiar with their work. They have a marked degree of success, and we look forward to continuing our relationship with them.
Thank you, Judge Barrows. Are there any questions for Judge Barrows? Thank you.
No grilling. Thank you, Counsel.
Not tonight. I would move for passage at this time. Thank you.
Please call the roll.
Brown, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, Tyson, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. That's all we have in the Criminal Justice Committee.
Thank you, Chair. The next committee to come before council is the Public Utilities Committee. That committee is chaired by Councilmember Dorans. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President Harden. We have 3 pieces of legislation in the Public Utilities Committee this evening. The first is 151, 2019, to authorize the Director of Finance and Management to associate all general budget reservations resulting from this ordinance with the appropriate universal term contract purchase agreements for the purchase of bill protestment services with Level 1 LLC for the Division of Power, the Division of Water, and the Division of Sewer and Drainage, and authorize the expenditure of $67,100 from the Electricity Operating Fund and $426,800 from the Water Operating Fund and $478,500 from the Sewer Operating Fund and $127,600 from the Storm Operating Fund. This is the annual purchase to ensure the Department of Public Utilities is able to perform its billing services to its customers. The department is continually working to improve its billing system that will include quite a bit of upgrades in the future and will make residents' ability to pay their water bills much easier and more convenient. Certainly, if my colleagues have any questions or comments. Seeing none, I move for passage.
Please call the roll.
Brown, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, Tyson, President Harden.
Passed.
Second ordinance this evening is 446, 2019, to authorize the Director of Public Utilities to enter into a construction contract with Connie Construction Co. for the 2019 fire hydrant replacement project, to authorize a transfer and expenditure up to $1,021,353.50 within the Water General Obligation Voted Bonds Fund, to provide for payment of prevailing wage services to the Department of Public Service, Design, and Construction Division in the amount of up to $2 million for the Water Division, and authorize an amendment of the 2018 capital improvements budget. This project will include the necessary labor, material, and equipment costs to replace damaged fire hydrants throughout the city. We budget $1 million every 2 years for fire hydrant replacement contracts. We have replaced 500 hydrants over the past 3 years with a cost of approximately $5,600 per hydrant. The city is looking to repair or replace or repair more than 170 hydrants with the passage of this contract. Do any of my colleagues have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Please call the roll.
Brown, Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, Tyson, President Harden.
Pass.
Last piece of legislation this evening is number 534, 2019, to authorize the Director of Public Utilities to enter into a construction contract with Underground Utilities, Inc. for the Dresden Street Area Water Line Improvement Project, to authorize the appropriation and transfer of $3,214,023.01 from the Water System Reserve Fund to the Water Supply Revolving Loan Fund Account Fund, to authorize the appropriation and expenditure of $3,214,023.01 from the Water Supply Revolving loan account fund to authorize a transfer and expenditure of up to $2,000 from the Water General Obligation Voted Bonds Fund to provide for the payment of prevailing wage services, the Department of Public Service for the Division of Water, and to authorize an amendment to the 2018 capital improvement budget. The goal of this project is to replace or fix the existing 6-inch, 8-inch, and 12-inch water lines that have a high break frequency in the neighborhoods in the Northeast, South Linden, and Milo Grogan neighborhoods. The replacement of these water lines will improve water service and decrease the burden on water maintenance operations and reduce water loss. Do any of my colleagues have any questions or comments? Seeing none, I move for passage.
Please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Pass.
Thank you, President Harden. That's all we have this evening in Public Utilities.
Thank you, Chair Dorns. The next committee to come before council is the Health and Human Services Committee. That committee is chaired by Councilmember Tyson. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I'm going to ask Jaleesa Dawkins from the Local Food Systems Strategies Manager and Chronic Disease Prevention to walk towards the podium, please. The ordinance is 419-2019. It's to authorize and direct the appropriation of $18,000 within the Neighborhood Initiatives Fund, to authorize expenditure of $20,000 from the Health Special Revenue Fund and $18,000 from the Neighborhood Initiatives Fund to pay the Columbus Foundation, the Foundation for Active Living for the management of the 2019 community gardening projects, and to declare an emergency. Ms. Dawkins, the floor is yours to explain this, the purpose for this ordinance.
Thank you, Councilmember Tyson. Council President Harden and members of City Council, thank you for this opportunity to speak about the benefit of funding community gardens in our city. The purpose of the City of Columbus and Franklin County Community Garden Grant is to provide financial and material resources to organizations who aim to repurpose underused land to, 1, increase healthy, affordable, and local food access and education, particularly for gardens that benefit people in low to moderate income neighborhoods, and 2, to bolster community pride. And this can be done through the creation, continuation, and/or expansion of community gardens. The city and the county have partnered to provide funding to community gardens through the grant program since 2010. The City of Columbus has awarded 280 grants totaling over $300,000 since its inception. So what do these numbers actually mean for our community gardens? This grant has reduced the burden of fundraising on community organizations, places of worship, schools, child care centers, and urban growers. It has given them the opportunity to focus on things like teaching children how to look at plants under a microscope and growing and distributing produce to refugee families. Community gardens have helped improve the physical and mental health of those in the community. I don't know if you've ever gardened before, but let's talking about committing to be fit. It is intense physical labor that is usually done with a group of people working together, which can lead to increased social connectedness. 84% of funded gardens from 2019 are located in Celebrate One high-priority neighborhoods. For many, it is a means to improve the health of family and friends, a way to reallocate a portion of food budgets towards other living expenses, and a way to increase social connectedness and decrease violence in neighborhoods. Through the years, many vacant lots have been revitalized through this grant. This year, almost 20% of the awarded gardens are located on land bank properties. The Scotts Miracle-Gro Foundation has been an awesome partner by donating thousands of dollars worth of necessary gardening product, including things like topsoil, mulch, and plant food. Although our gardeners could not be here to share this appreciation today, I'd like to share a quote from one of our past grantees. We are very thankful for the Columbus Community Garden Grant. It has allowed us to grow our community garden and purchase equipment to keep our garden going for years to come. We continue to apply for the grant to fund our growing ideas of providing an educational garden for our students and community members. So on behalf of the Columbus and Franklin County Local Food Action Plan and the community gardeners in our city, we thank you for your continued and genuine support for this grant program, and we look forward to growing the impact these gardens have on our city. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Dawkins, for coming down, and she is a great representative of the Local Food Action Plan in work and action. And are there any questions for Ms. Dawkins? Seeing none, thank you for your leadership. And she was also responsible for the 2019 process. She ran it this year, and we look forward to those gardeners. On Earth Day, they will be getting their supplies and getting ready to go out and start their gardens. And in the fall or late summer, we always go out and visit those gardens. So thank you for your leadership.
Thank you.
If there are no questions or comments, I move for passage.
Please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Pass.
Thank you. The next ordinance is 591-2019. It's to authorize the Board of Health to enter into contracts with Equitas Health and Lancaster Fairfield Community Action Agency for the provision of eligible HOPWA services for the period of January the 1st of 2019 through December 31st of 2019, to authorize the expenditure of $952,861 from the General Government Grants Fund and to declare an emergency. HOPWA provides long-term and short-term rental or mortgage support, as well as utility assistance to approximately 120 low-income HIV-positive households. For more information regarding this program, please contact Sean Hubert at seanh@columbus.gov or Audrey Reagan at asreagan@columbus.gov. So we are pleased to be able to support individuals in our community who have HIV and AIDS and to help them to make sure that they are in quality housing. If there are no questions or comments, I move for passage.
Please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Pass.
Thank you. I'm now going to ask Michelle Heritage to come towards the podium, please. And this is ordinance 603-2019 to authorize the Director of the Department of Development to enter into an agreement with the Community Shelter Board for the purpose of implementing the crisis response system and to authorize expenditure of $1,537,704 from the general fund and to declare an emergency. And Michelle Heritage is the President and CEO of a Community Shelter Board. Michelle, while you're at the podium, you can talk about this piece of legislation. You can also talk about the one that's coming after this that we're providing, so you can just give a full presentation.
Fantastic.
The floor is yours.
Well, good evening, members of council and Councilmember Tyson. Your support, longstanding support and investment into this system of care through Community Shelter Board supports our 16 partner agencies, and they're delivering services to more than 12,000 people in Columbus each year. We're overseeing dozens of programs for 2019. They help keep people safe, help them find housing, and get them back on the road to self-sufficiency. The proposed street outreach legislation supports Mary Haven's work to lead a collaborative outreach team that serves hundreds of people a year, engaging people on the street to help them access shelter and housing. Last year, this tiny team of just 2 people had 200 people that were placed directly from the street into permanent housing. The proposed Rebuilding Lives legislation funds permanent supportive housing for people that have disabilities and are experiencing long-term homelessness. And the proposed legislation for the crisis response system supports our largest single adult and family shelters. But shelter is not home. The legislation also funds rapid rehousing work that's so important to help people get out of shelter and back to housing. We're continuing to do focused work with our veterans to make sure they have immediate access to shelter, are never put on waiting lists, and get the help that they need to get back to housing. And we're also continuing our focused work with expectant mothers in collaboration with Celebrate One to both prevent and end their homelessness and keep the babies safe and healthy. The proposed safety net legislation supports emergency shelters, supportive housing, and rapid rehousing programs that serve more than 12,000 people a year. None of this work could happen without your support. I thank you for your leadership, your partnership, and your deep commitment to the most vulnerable people in our community.
And Michelle, can you just briefly mention some of the creative programs that you're doing to help residents that are in the shelter? for the example of, we just recently talked about helping landlords,
Yes.
or can you just talk about that, please?
Absolutely. So we know we have a challenge with affordable housing in the community, and you are taking many steps, and those are long-term solutions. But we have people experiencing homelessness right now and are in housing crisis right now. And so we did some technical assistance with other communities across the country who have experienced a housing crisis before us, like Austin, Texas, and others. And they've used a landlord liaison. And so we've taken a page out of their playbook, and we've hired a landlord liaison. This is a person that's not a social worker, they're a real estate type, and their job is to recruit landlords in the community and retain them. We have just over 700 landlords that we use on the regular that we've approved to provide safe and decent housing. We'd like to see that number double. This will make sure that people can get out of shelter more quickly, that we have checked these apartments. We do a cross-check with the City Development Department to make sure they're not in code violation or anything like that. And we can offer these to our partners. So this will decrease shelter times and move forward. We also raised a little bit of dollars for a risk mitigation fund. And this is a fund that's been used in other communities that tells landlords, look, if you've got a problem where somebody skips out and doesn't pay the rent, or your property gets damaged or destroyed in a way, we'll make you whole up to a certain amount of money. What you do on the other side is you give people a chance who have multiple barriers. For our restored citizens, for people who have credit problems, for people who have been evicted. We're asking you to lower those barriers, not ask for double security deposits, and not ask for as much up front. And so it's a way for us to help those landlords who want to do the right thing. We have many landlords in this community who really want to help people who've had some challenges. We're trying to make it easy for them to do that.
Thank you, Michelle, for your leadership, and I also thank you for just the advocacy, and this council has certainly in the past been focused on this around evictions. When you look at just two things, when you look at the number of women, this is Women's History Month, but the number of women that are in poverty in this community, and especially the women of color, black women in poverty, when you think about a third of them are in poverty, and we only make up 12% or so, and so a third of the women should not be in poverty. And then you have them being in poverty, they get evicted, and then they come to the shelter. And I mean, it's just a vicious cycle that we have got to get our handle on. How do we move through that? But I certainly appreciate your leadership and your work. And are there any questions for Michelle?
Thank you for all your support.
Oh, Council President Harden.
Thank you, Councilmember Tyson. It's really just to say thank you. The work of the Shelter Board, it's interesting when Councilmember asked you to talk about your innovative programs, they were as much about keeping folks outside of the shelter other than just funding for the shelter. And I think that speaks to the ecosystem that we have to create. And Councilmember Tyson spoke of the work that we were doing under the leadership of Councilmember Page around evictions. And I know that we have good partners out there like the Apartment Association who will have to continue to work with to help with that problem. When we spoke before, I mean, you talk about the issue of just having renters that would available to take your folks, that you have the resources to put folks in, but you need the renters to allow folks to come into their properties. And so just appreciate Councilmember Tyson, your leadership, and for having Michelle here to speak on those programs that you're running. Thank you. Thank you, President Harden. And for us to get people not to be in the shelter, we've got to look at workforce. I mean, that's just, I mean, it's poverty. I mean, there's just, when you don't make any money,
that's right.
It's just very hard to move forward. And so I look forward to working with my council colleagues on continue to try to provide opportunities for people in terms of their finances. So with that, I think I've read the first ordinance 603 of 2019, and I would ask my colleagues to support this and move for passage.
Brown, Dorans, favor. Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Thank you. The next ordinance is 604-2019. Is to authorize the Director of Department of Development to enter into a contract with the Community Shelter Board for the purpose of continuing the city's support of the Safety Net Program for homeless emergency shelters and related homeless shelter services and the Homeless Prevention and Transition Services, to authorize expenditure of $2,847,258 from the general fund and to declare an emergency. If there are no questions or comments, I move for passage.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, Tyson, President Harden.
Thank you. And as Michelle mentioned, on consent today, we passed legislation for CSB to contract with Mary Haven to oversee the Mary Haven Collaborative Outreach Team, which serves about 250 people annually. They provide they are providing short-term needs of homeless men and women, and then they're looking to provide long-term. And so if there are no questions or comments on the 604, 2019, I move for passage.
Please call the roll. Come again.
Pass already? Okay, well, then thank you. That's all I have in my committee.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair Tyson. The final piece of legislation we have is in the Rules and Reference Committee. It is 0838-2019. It's to amend Section 111.04 of Columbus City Code relating to standing committees of council and to declare an emergency. As background, City Council divides the work based on committees, and each year we take a look at these committees to ensure that they fully reflect the values of values and priorities of this body. I would just like to highlight three changes that we are making this year. First, we've added a focus on seniors into the Veterans Affairs Committee. Folks know that former President Pro Tem Michael Cinziano was the co-chair of the Age-Friendly Columbus Initiative and a huge advocate for seniors in our community, as well as the advocacy of former Councilmember Ryan. With his departure, we wanted to formalize council's focus on seniors, and that's why that's why the Veterans Affairs Committee is now the Veterans and Seniors Affairs Committee, and Councilmember Mitch Brown will chair that committee. The second change we have to the committees is that we are splitting the Economic Development and Small Business Committee up into two separate committees. We're doing this because the issue of small and minority business needs to be lifted up through its own committee. This comes at the same time the city is revamping how it supports entrepreneurs, and as we prepare to reshape our procurement practices based on the outcome of the disparity study. Councilmember Emmanuel Remy will chair the Economic Development Committee, and I will chair the Small and Minority Business Committee. Finally, the Judiciary and Court Administration Committee will be the Criminal Justice and Judiciary Committee. This shift is to empower the committee chair to investigate criminal justice issues and explore partnerships with our municipal court. Councilmember Shayla Favor is the chair of the Criminal Justice and Judiciary Committee. The last point I would make about committees is it's an internal conversation, but it's important. We are excited to use the committee structures this year, talking to council members and asking them to partner with their second chair. So it's important for the community to find out who the second chairs are of these committees as we encourage partnership and collaboration and a lot of neat and innovative ideas coming out of this council. So if there are no questions or comments, I move for passage. Please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, Tyson, President Harden.
Passed. Seeing no further business to come before council, may I have a motion to adjourn? Please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, Tyson, President Harden.
Council meeting number 12 is adjourned. We will take non-agenda speakers momentarily. Regular meeting number 13 will now come to order. May the clerk please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, Tyson, President Harden.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to dispense with the reading of the journal? Is there a second? Please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, Tyson, President Harden.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We will now go to the Zoning Committee. Councilmember Tyson chairs that committee. All members serve on the committee. Councilmember, the floor is yours.
So everyone's now walked into the room that needs to speak today. So we have, before beginning zoning, I will briefly explain the rules of council as pertaining to speaking before council on zonings and variances. We permit 3 speakers on each side, 3 proponents, 3 opponents, and we ask that they limit their remarks to 3 minutes on each side. And we provide an opportunity for rebuttal from the applicant. On the advice of the City Attorney's Office, we ask that anyone here this evening who wishes to speak either for or against a council variance, including staff, please stand, raise your right hand, and be sworn in. I wish to tell the truth and nothing but the truth. Please answer, I will. Thank you. The first ordinance is 597-2019. Is to rezone 818 East Long Street, being 2.27 acres located at the northeast corner of East Long Street and Garfield Avenue, from R2F residential and ARO apartment office districts to CPD commercial plan development district. The applicant is Kinsley and Company, in care of Sean Mental. The proposed use is a mixed-use development. The City Department's recommendation is approval. The Near East Area Commission's recommendation is approval, 11-0 to 1. I'm going to first ask for a staff presentation.
May I have the PowerPoint up, please? Thank you. Good evening. This 2.27 acre site presently consists of 8 parcels and is developed with various structures as a vacant commercial building, a 2-unit dwelling, a parking lot, and the properties are all zoned either in the R2F residential or ARO apartment office district. The requested CPD commercial plan development district would permit a mixed-use development consisting of residential, retail, and office uses. The site is located within the boundaries of the East Long Street Urban Commercial Overlay and is within the planning area of the Near East Area Plan, which recommends higher density residential and mixed-use development at this particular location. The development text permits C4 district uses, C4 and Urban Commercial Overlay development standards, and establishes supplemental standards that address setbacks, parking, and graphics provisions. Variances to reduce the required number of parking spaces from 249 to 128 and to reduce building and parking setback lines are included in this proposal. The request is consistent with the plan's recommendations for the development of pedestrian and transit-oriented environments and the use of urban commercial overlay design standards with street-level retail, and is also compatible with the commercial developments along the Long Street corridor and the adjacent dwellings to the north and east. The applicant has also filed a concurrent council variance, which will be discussed next, to allow first floor residential uses on the site. Staff's recommendation is for approval. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Are there any questions from staff? Thank you. Seeing none, I'm going to ask for a presentation and statement from the applicant, and it is Attorney Sean Mental. And typically, there are not any speakers that are against this. We have another speaker from the community who wants to speak in favor. But it was important to have this presentation today to get to this point. And I think once the other speakers come up, I think that we'll share with the council as to why this is an important project on Long Street, and just want to provide some more information regarding this very important project. Attorney Mental, the floor is yours.
Chair Tyson, thank you. Members of council, members of the zoning committee. I am happy to kind of go through any of the technical pieces of the rezoning, and then of course the council variance, or answer any questions there, but I'd like to introduce Chineda Ndukwe, who will kind of speak to the long, inclusive process that we've endeavored on this project, if there aren't any questions on the zoning piece.
Councilwoman Tyson, I just want to thank you again for all your support. Councilmember Harden, thank you so much. Everybody on the zoning committee, I really appreciate this opportunity to talk about our project on East Long Street. It seems like it was just yesterday. Now we're sitting here 2 years later from once we started this process. I can honestly say that it's been a true, inclusive, public-private process to this point. we've taken so much feedback from the community, pastors, people, business owners, Long Street Business Association, NEAC, and it's one of my, to the point of, it's been one of my favorite projects. You know, I think this model that we're creating here can be replicated across the country of truly having private development spearhead and facilitate a true catalytic project in an area of downtown Columbus that it's well needed. So I would really like to open up for any questions you might have. You know, part of this process has been taking part of the old facade of the buildings that were there and really incorporating it into our new modern look that really reflects the culture and the history that's so rich in this community in Columbus. So that being said, I'd love to open up for questions.
Can you just share the number of units?
Absolutely.
I know there's retail, commercial, I mean, the mixed use. Could you just share that, please?
Definitely. It's close to 9,000 square feet of commercial space with close to 133 units that are going to range from workforce affordable to market rate. I mean, it's truly an inclusive project that we've presented here today. You know, the other thing that's innovative and truly impactful of this project, with my firm being an MBE, where it's certified with the state of Ohio, and an SDC as well as being an MBE developer, this project is going to be 51% minority owned, both of local African Americans and really inclusive to reflect the community that we're doing this project. I mean, this is something that hopefully can be replicated in other cities throughout the country.
Thank you. So I'm very excited about the project, and I think there's a speaker who wants to come and talk about that as for this, and then we can, are there any questions? Okay. Sure. Councilmember Favor.
So my previous job before this worked at the city attorney's office, and this was one of my former cases. And so to me, this is a full circle moment to see a piece of property that had sat vacant and abandoned for quite some time. Although very historical and meant something to the community, it is very encouraging to see the development of that, what I believe to be one of our main corridors in Columbus. So I applaud your effort to move forward in this direction. I am very much excited for this project, along with Councilmember Tyson as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to ask Willis Brown, who is in favor of the project, to come up and make any comments. Good evening, Mr. Brown.
Good evening, City Council Member Tyson, President Harding, and other members of City Council. It's good to be here at this moment as it relates to this project, because the project represents so many things. And I think having the time to dialogue, and I think that sets the precedence that when you're coming into the Bronzeville neighborhood, and again, that we have the resolution, so it really ties in very tightly to the future. And it takes away the stigma. Even to today, I was hit with, you know, the term Bronzeville being negative, and that's where the house values are lower because it has blackness attached to it. But blackness means richness. I mean, and this is what we're going to show, that this project is that no matter where it's at, especially in our area, it means great things. So even recently, even a senior staff member of the city said to me, it was kind of in between that, you know, I don't care what y'all call the neighborhood, I'm going to always call it King Lincoln. So it was like, okay, you're going to get there eventually. So we're going to work on that staff member to know that this is coming. But in lieu of everything else, what we want this to do as the neighborhood is growing is to have things that benefit, meaning the buildings are wonderful, but there's a list that we said that we would like City Council to honor, meaning it needs two-way on Monroe. We're saying that's nice, it makes it work better, but you know, move the blacktop so it can show the beautiful brick underneath and slow the traffic down. We said we want this pedestrian lighting. And what we are saying here, and you have a whole list of what we mentioned, but what we are saying as a resident and as taxpayers and as partners in this whole thing, that you bring a project of that magnitude of $20+ million, it just can't come in and sit there. It must impact the adjacent homes, the adjacent street, the adjacent vibration of the community. Too many times things come in and they just come there, and right across the street there's a house that's falling down or the sidewalk. It needs work. So what we're saying that this has to be the holistic approach to urban redevelopment, at least for the Bronzeville area, and it should be the standard for any area in the city. So we support it as long as they keep doing the right thing, not to coin Spike Lee, but they're doing the right thing, and we are very pleased. We had some heated battles, and that goes to show that it is okay to have heated battles, because the exposure to education and intellect, you have to have heated battles to come with something great like this. And when you try to get along and be pleasant, you end up with crap, and we see that. And we're saying, no, when you come here, we want the best, and we're going to bring that. So we support them, and we will continue to do that. And also, City Council and the members of your staff, has really been wonderful. So we're going to keep doing that together. Thank you.
Mr. Brown, I want to say thank you for coming down and being supportive, because I also want to thank some other people. So I want to thank you, but I want to thank Boyd Safford and Next Gen. I also have to thank Director Shoney. I also know that when we first were getting to look at the McNabb building or the Adelphi Savings and Loan, that you were certainly in council talking to us as well others about saving the facade of that building, and made a commitment. I remember sitting upstairs and had a number of meetings with you about this, that we were going to make sure we're going to save that the facade, because it's important to have our history. And so working with Boyce and the group to say that we have to make sure that that facade was going to be a part of any development that would be in that community. And so we did keep our word, because that is absolutely going to happen. If you've not seen the renderings of this project, they're absolutely they're just beautiful buildings. I drive down Long Street all the time. And so the commercial, the residential, it is just a wonderful project. And I certainly do appreciate it having as you said, that it is 51% minority owned. It's very important that wealth is happening in our community. And so I'm very appreciative of that project. So I'm very excited about it, and I thank the developers, and again, the Department of Development, Next Gen, this body, for continuing to make sure that this would move forward. And I do hear your comments about, you're right, that we need to make sure that we're continuing to work with you and the Near East Area Commission to make sure that we continue to move the community forward. And so,
thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I have to say, with Dana's eye as an architect, he loved, when you saw the renderings, he says, that's what architects do. Oh. They put it in, so it's nice having a resident architect with us in the Near East Side, too. So it's nice having everyone working together.
Thank you. Thank you. Are there any questions from my colleagues to any of the speakers? I'm just very excited about this. All right, well, seeing none, I move for passage.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, Tyson, President Harden.
Thank you. Have ordinance 598-2019 to grant a variance for the provisions of sections 3356.03 C4 permitted uses, 3361.02 CPD permitted uses of the Columbus City Code for property located at 818 East Long Street, to permit ground floor residential uses in a mixed use development in the CPD Commercial Plan Development District. The applicant is Kinsley and Company, care of Sean Mental. The proposed use is mixed-use development. The City Department's recommendation is approval, and the Near East Area Commission's recommendation is approval, 11-0-1. I move for passage.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy, Tyson, President Harden.
Thank you. The next ordinance is 653-2019 to grant a variance for the provisions of Section 3353.03 permitted uses of the Columbus City Code to the property located at 3500 Snoffer Road and to permit a beauty salon within an existing office building complex in the C2 Commercial District. The applicant is Donald Plank. The proposed use is a beauty salon. The City Department's recommendation is approval, and the Far West Coalition's recommendation is approval 5-0. I move for passage.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Thank you. The next ordinance is 677-2019 to grant a variance from the provisions of Section 3332.039 R4 Residential District of the Columbus City Codes for the property located at 177 West Hubbard Avenue to permit office uses in the R4 Residential District. The applicant is Brenda Parker. Proposed use is office use. The City Department's recommendation is approval. The Victorian Village Commission's recommendation is approval, 6-0. If there are no questions or comments, I move for passage.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Thank you. The next ordinance is 595-2019. It's to rezone 4522 Kenny Road, being 5.4 acres located at the east side of Kenny Road, 214 feet south of West Henderson Road, from C2 Commercial to C4 Commercial and CPD Commercial Plan Development Districts to AR2 Apartment Residential District. The applicant is Preferred Living Acquisitions, LLC, care of David Hodge. I just want to say that I know that David Hodge and Preferred Living reached out to this community in a very significant way, and I appreciate you reaching out and hearing their concerns and working out those concerns with many of those residents of that community. So I thank you for that. Proposed use is a multi-unit residential development. The City Department's recommendation is approval, and the Northwest Civic Association's approval was 7-1. I'm looking for a note. I'm looking for one note. Sorry. Thank you. And I want to just say that there will be, and again, we've been talking a lot about affordable housing, and there'll be roughly 44 units of affordable housing within this project, and that's very exciting. And increased value to surrounding properties due to a new build, replacing old deteriorated buildings. So again, I'm pleased about this legislation tonight. Again, with 7-1 approval, and if there are no questions or comments, I first move to amend to emergency.
Please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Amended.
Thank you, and now I move for passage.
Please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Passed.
Thank you. And so again, this Kenny Road, this property has a variance. So to grant, 596-2019 is to grant a variance from the provisions of sections 3312.272 parking setback line, 3333.18 building lines, and 3333.255 perimeter yard of the Columbus City Code for the property located at 4522 Kenny Road to permit the development of an apartment complex with reduced development standards in the AR2 Apartment Residential District. The applicant is Preferred Living Acquisitions, LLC, care of David Hodge. The proposed use is a multi-unit residential development. The City Department's recommendation is approval, and the Northwest Civic Association's recommendation is approval, 7-1. So I first move to amend to emergency.
Please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Amended.
Thank you. And this is also the CRA that we did maybe a couple weeks ago. And now I move for passage.
Please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Pass.
Thank you. That's all I have in zoning this evening.
Thank you. Seeing no further business coming before the zoning committee, may I get a motion to adjourn? Please call the roll.
Brown, Dorans, favor, Remy Tyson, President Harden.
Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.